Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. So if you weren't aware of this fact, that we have two huge things coming together on November 8th, which look like they're going to have a tremendously transformative effect on the psyche of human beings. So November 8th, we are having an election here in the United States, midterm elections. So in between the presidential elections, we have the midterm elections, and we have elections all over the country for Congress, for the House of Representatives, for local, state, city. We have all kinds of elections going on, and this is usually when there's a referendum. Whenever there's a referendum where the people vote out the current political narrative, this is usually when it's done. That's, of course, assuming that you believe that the political process actually works, that we actually live in a democratic society where your votes count. Assuming that you believe that, this is the time. Midterm elections are the time. And so we're going to be having the midterm elections on November 8th, and we're also going to be having a lunar eclipse in Aries. This is Vedic astrology, by the way, the astrology of India, not Western. Western says it's going to be in Taurus. But just again to remind you, Western astrology is an inaccurate calculation of the sky. It is off by 24 degrees. So no, it is not in Taurus, it is in Aries. Aries is the sign of the warrior. It is the sign ruled over by the external, expressive, fiery aspect of Mars. So this is, when you've got anything in Aries, there's the potential for dynamic, incredible change. So while we're on the subject, if you want to know what is going on with you in your Vedic astrological chart, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. You can get a reading from me. I've got a bunch of other astrology apprentices that you can get readings from. And in my experience, what I've done is I've taken what is most fundamentally important about the astrological reading, and my goal is to give somebody one astrological reading in their whole life. That's it. One astrological reading. What astrologers want to do is they want to make money off of you every month, because then, when this transit is happening and that has, when is a good time to get a job or to spend money or to get married or, that kind of stuff. But I researched Vedic astrology on my own chart, and I found out the things that were most important for the rest of my life. It's going to be true for you today. It's going to be true for you 50 years from now. These are things like specific mantras, specific meditations. What planets are giving you the most strength throughout your whole life? What planets are causing you the biggest problems? What you need to do to present yourself to the world, because how you see yourself and how the world sees yourself are two different things, and many people don't know. They try and present themselves the way they think they are, but they end up looking totally different to the world. And when you know how you come across to the world and you present yourself that way, the world will throw money at you. So these are things that you learn in Vedic astrology if you have a good astrologer. So go to astrology.thunderwizard.com to find out what those things are for you. So what's going to be happening here? So first, you know what's been happening politically. We're now getting to the point where the narrative that has been given to us for the past couple of years is crumbling. And everything that you've been told, especially about what's been going on with things in the medical community, things I can't even mention. I'm not even going to, skirt around it because the YouTube censoring is so out of hand that if I even say anything that even comes close to whether it's true or not against the current narrative, I could lose my channel. But the things associated with that, now even here on YouTube, you can find videos finding out that the things that you've been told for the past 2 years are now, we now know, those of us knew a long time ago, but now everybody knows that that whole narrative was false. And things that were supposed to work for you, turns out they never worked for you. And now they just don't care. They're just letting you know. So people are starting to understand that the media, as well as the government, as well as the entire narrative, which is being controlled by the corporations, being controlled by big giant companies. Companies are controlling the governments, which are controlling other international bodies that make rules about things you need to do for your health. All of that narrative is crumbling. It's falling down all around us. And people now know it. More and more people are waking up to the realization that they cannot trust their government. And so now there's going to be this election. So the real question is, are the elections going to be fair? And even then, there's going to be a huge upset. So when you've got an eclipse going on, what happens is the moon, which is your mind, the moon becomes eclipsed. And so what ends up happening is that the moon cannot shine its light onto planet Earth. And the moon shining its light on planet Earth is symbolic of your mind being able to see things objectively, emotionally being able to process what is happening in your life. So when we go through lunar eclipses, people literally lose their mind. They lose their mind, their emotions go out the window, and they, whatever self-restraint they have, this is one of those times that they can lose it. So according to some people, lunar eclipses are things that you need to stay indoors. Don't let that light hit you, the light of the eclipse hit you. But those of us who practice more of a left-handed path, we rejoice in these eclipses because the power to transform is magnified thousands of times. So what's going to be happening here is the ability of your mind to transform itself and to let go of old patterns, old narratives, the lies. This is when the lies are you'll be able to get rid of them. So some people are saying, since this eclipse is happening in the sign of Aries, which is the fiery sign of Mars, that there might be some chaos, some revolutions, people really acting out, really rebelling against the status quo. Definitely, if there seems to be any kind of hanky-panky with the voting process, people are going to lose it. They're going to absolutely lose it. Even if it's just, if they have the feeling, even if they're wrong, if they get a mistaken feeling that the election process is not fair, that it's rigged, people are going to absolutely, completely lose their minds. If that doesn't happen, or even alongside of that, what's going to happen is that the population is going to rise up. They're going to rise up and they're going to throw off the lies that have been heaped on their mind. Because this, This assault that's been going on us has been an assault on your ability to see the truth. It has been an assault on your mind. You have been programmed to believe certain things. Now, maybe you believe them, maybe you don't. If you're watching my channel, you probably don't. But it doesn't change the fact that you see it everywhere, and you see people around you are completely blinded by this narrative. They've been completely hypnotized into believing a bunch of nonsense. More than that, there are people who are just afraid to believe anything other than what they're told. A lot of people are part of the narrative because to not be part of the narrative means to not be part of the group, means not to be accepted. And this is very frightening, to be, by yourself and not have clear leadership and clear direction, even if it's false. People will happily sign up for a false reality. I mean, that's what religion is. I grew up in religion, and I saw what happened to people. As I was a kid and going through college, I saw what happened to people who were just willing to believe, or not so much believe, but they were willing to espouse beliefs that they knew weren't true, simply because they didn't want to be rejected. They didn't want to be out in the cold. They didn't want to be isolated. And so this is going to all come to a head. People will no longer be willing to throw away, less people, I should say. Less people are going to be willing to throw away their identity, to throw away their integrity, just in the hopes of being accepted. This is going to be one of those pivotal points, even if we don't see a whole lot happen on November 8th, which I can't imagine we won't, because it's an election. And not only that, this is, as I said, this is the midterm elections where if there is going to be a referendum on the ruling party, it's going to be during the midterm elections. And our current United States president, his popularity is so low. I mean, he's not even popular among his own party. People in his own party know that he's just too, just to not, attack the guy on all kinds of levels that I could, the guy's just too old. He's obviously not, he's not functioning well upstairs. He just said, sadly, and I feel for him, his son died of brain cancer as a result of whatever he was exposed to, I guess, in Iraq. But he died in the United States years afterwards. But Joe Biden goes up there and claims that his son died in Iraq. He's lost it. He's bonkers. He's just old. Too many spike proteins in his brain or something. I don't know what it is. But just even that is going to create, I expect there's going to be a huge upheaval, and I believe that there's going to be a huge turnover in, over towards the Republican side. And if we don't see a huge shift over to Republican candidates, people are going to lose it. They're going to absolutely lose their minds. And even if that doesn't happen, just the fact that we have an eclipse, eclipses always do one thing. They reveal the lies. Even if you don't see it right at the eclipse, what it is it starts a beginning process of revealing the lies that have been perpetrated on the mind, because the moon is the mind. And when the eclipse comes, everything will be revealed. Everything will start to be revealed. So it's going to start a process of revealing. And again, this could be a longer process of chaos, of revolution, of rebellion against the narrative as a result of this. So I think this is, coincidence, it's a pretty intense coincidence that we have this midterm election, probably the most revolutionary midterm election in recent history, and we're having it on a lunar eclipse in the sign of Aries. I think that the end result is going to be very interesting. So get your popcorn out on November 8th and watch. What you can do to empower yourself is to understand that eclipses, both lunar and solar eclipses, are incredibly energetically powerful moments. And the barrier between the physical and the spiritual becomes very thin during eclipses. So this is why some people get scared. You got to be careful. Evil spirits will come after you during eclipses. But it just means that, for those people who are of a lower vibrational mindset, who have victim mentality, they have fear, insecurity, they might be more prone to spiritual experiences of any kind. But for those of us who follow this channel, hopefully you have a daily spiritual practice, you have a daily energetic practice. And so these lunar eclipses are actually tremendously powerful opportunities to gain power, to gain wisdom, to gain awareness. So what I recommend that you do is during the eclipse, especially if you can find out when exactly the eclipse is in your area. I didn't bother to look before I came on tonight, but if you know exactly when the eclipse is in your area, during the eclipse, a little bit before and a little bit after, you can be chanting a mantra, you can be meditating, you can be doing energy work, and have the intention in your mind to see the truth in the world around you and also become aware of all of the lies that you tell yourself. If you tell yourself you're not good enough, you're not worthy, things like that, that's a lie. If you don't believe that you are a reflection and in 3 dimensions of the eternal, if you don't realize that you are an incarnation of a 9th dimensional deity, to believe anything other than that is a lie. So you can meditate on your divinity. You can meditate on your power. Meditate on your ability to create your reality. So you can confront all of the victim mentality that you may be carrying within you, all of the negative thinking. You can confront all of the negative programming you've been given by society, your parents, people like that. This is one of the most powerful things that you can have during a lunar eclipse, to have the lies that have been put into your mind, to become aware of them and to release them, to let go of them, to drive them out. So that's what's coming up. I don't know what else is going to be going on. I would be interested to know, because I haven't done it, but I'd be interested to know what CE5 would be like during the eclipse. I wonder if that would create an interesting experience. So that's something to think about too. In any case, there's not a whole lot more to say about the eclipse and what it means. So I'm happy to open it up for questions. Again, this is a question and answer. And I just have to say, I don't know. I haven't been checking the... Let me just take a look. I haven't been checking the current astrology. We don't have Mercury retrograde, but people have been saying and doing weird stuff on the channel. They've been saying weird things, So anyway, I'm hoping to get some well thought out, honest questions. And of course, I'd love to hear your honest feelings if you have any. So let's see what we got here. We've got Fragile Bean. Do me a favor. You see below you, it says honest feeling. Do you see that it's in all caps? That's there for a reason. It's so that I can see it. It's a real simple request. It's a real simple instruction. I have to keep repeating myself. I don't know why. But write the word question in all caps. That way I'll see it. It annoys me people don't pay attention. You say, honest question. You spelled it Aries on the title. You mean Aries, right? What do you think? Is that really a question? Let me explain to you what a question is. A question is, when you want to know something that you don't know and you think I have the answer to it. If I've obviously misspelled something, is that really a question? I mean, is that really something that we should spend a half an hour talking about? Agent of the Universe, honest feeling. I'm so excited for the establishment to be overturned, it makes me feel relief. I am with you, my friend. However, I do need to point out that I get my skin ruffled because you're just so ready to go into that, that contrary space. I happen to be in agreement with you about it, but I know that you tend to kind of go overboard on a lot of things. But in this case, you happen to be right. So you and I share the same feeling there. Heka Lilithson, honest feeling. I appreciate what you do in your presence, Mahadeva. Thank you. I needed the positive affirmation today. I appreciate that. That goes well. I follow water. Honest feeling. Please put that in all caps. I love the live class. Thank you. I'm glad I enjoy giving them. All right. Fragile bean, that's not a question. Okay, so let me go over some basics on this channel if you're new to the channel. There's another thing that, if I know about it, it annoys me, and I end up pointing it out. If you're on my channel and you only listen to me talk, you are wasting your valuable time and energy. Because this channel is about doing the energy work. So I strongly recommend that if you really want to get the most out of everything I do and everything that's available to you on this channel, that you have a daily discipline, a daily practice where you do energy work. I don't care if it's the Hul breath, which is the basic meditation for this channel, or if you're doing the most advanced, which is the maoshan.thunderwizard.com. Be doing some kind of energy work. And bear in mind, there's a very good chance I'm going to immediately know if you're doing the work or not. And it's not because I'm psychic. It's because the things that you say, the way that you speak, the way that your mind works will tell me immediately if you've been doing the practice. If you've been doing the practice for a while, I'll also know that. I'll be able to sense that and see that in your questions. So if you're new to the channel and you're not doing the energy work, my strongest recommendation is that you go here to thunderwizard.com, scroll around until you see Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong and subscribe. You can unsubscribe whenever you want, but when you are subscribed, you will have access to videos where you simply press play and follow me as I do the energy practices, and you will be connecting Qi, which is life force energy, which is the energy that keeps your cells going. It is Kundalini, which helps to move through the nervous system, the chakras, and give you awareness, spiritual awareness, and the lightning energy of the heart, which is called the heart mind, which stays dormant within the body unless you know the very simple ways to release it. And each one of these energy practices will help you to evolve and raise your vibration. But when you're doing all three, I mean, what else is there to say? You're not going to find anything like this anywhere. If you're on my channel and you're not taking advantage of that, number one, I'm going to know. And number two, you're doing yourself a disservice. And to me, again, I don't understand why anybody would come onto this channel knowing that and not be subscribed. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I see people, I might get 1,000 views on a video. I don't understand why all 1,000 of those people aren't subscribed. So if you want to get the most out of this channel, do that. And if you're not willing to do that, because whatever, you need that, that $50 a month to buy coffee every day, fine. Go on to the YouTube page, the thunderwizard.com YouTube page, and go onto the playlists and do the energy work. Do the free energy work. Do something. Doing the energy work is absolutely essential to get the most out of this channel, but it's also going to be absolutely crucial when we go through this shift that we are in the midst of. We are in the midst of a huge transformational shift. I can't tell you when exactly things are going to, the solar wave, when that hits, all the other things that are in the process of happening, but I can tell you, those people who are trapped in their lower vibrational states, their fear mentality, the victim mentality, negative thinking, just the being unaware of your connection to the life force energy of the universe. People who are stuck in their head. It's going to get worse and worse and worse for people who are not allowing this energy to shift them up to the next level. So I offer all of these things to you. And of course, we've got courses.thunderwizard.com, which has all of the courses on there and all of the services that I provide, as well as the books. And then we've got maushan.thunderwizard.com. So don't be lazy. Do the work. Take advantage of the materials that are made available to you so that you can comfortably make the shift that we're experiencing. All right, I did that to give you guys more time to write questions, and nobody wants to write a question. So I guess we're done. All right. All right. Very good. So I got nothing else. Oh, here we go. Question. So Tara Bones is writing the entire question in all caps. I don't need that. I just need the word question in all caps. But I appreciate the effort. Question, please. Does the eclipse affect the individual 12 stars born differently, or does this have no relevance? You're asking me how the eclipse affects each person's sign, right? Of course it's going to have individual effects on individual people. That's your question. Is the eclipse going to have different effects on different people based on their astrological makeup? The short answer is yes. In order for me to go into that, that would be a much longer video, and I don't have time for that. So what I recommend that you do is you go to astrology. I'll write it for you. You can go there and find out how it's going to affect you. Astrology.thunderwizard.com. Get yourself a reading, because whenever you go onto these YouTube videos, even if you go and see Vedic Astrology and it's going to say, what is this going to happen for this month to all 12 signs, you're still getting incredibly general information that may or may not be accurate to you. It's in your best interest to go and get this information given to you by somebody who's skilled to be able to know all of the specific things that are going on in your specific chart. This is the thing about astrology. I mean, one of the things about Western astrology that I find annoying is that, Western astrologers especially, will say, what's your sign? And, you'll say whatever your Western sun sign is, and then they'll start going off about that. But, the fact is that that's the same sun sign for so many millions of people who were born within that same month. It tells you almost nothing. Plus the fact that you're probably wrong because Western astrology is off by 24 degrees. So I don't think it's in people's best interest to get generalized readings. You should, if you're really interested, either learn astrology yourself. I have an astrology course you can take. But if you don't want to do that, then find somebody who's skilled in astrology who can really take a look at your chart, give you specific things. So Tara Bones, I understand your question. I appreciate the question. But I also want to say to you, My first question to you is, are you doing the energy work? Are you currently doing any of the energy practices on this channel? Because if you are, then you don't have to worry. When you have access to a powerful energy system like the one that I teach, it doesn't have to be me. I'm not the only game in town. But when you have a daily spiritual energetic practice that you do, yoga, tai chi, qigong, mantra meditation, when you have something like that that you are committed to doing every single day, you're already protected from these kinds of shifts. Sure, they're going to have an effect on you, and it's good to know what that is. But, a lot of people, again, astrology becomes a way of worrying about what's going to happen to them. You ought to know, but the good news is that you can be completely protected. You don't have to worry about whatever shifts are going on any level, truth be known. No matter what happens in any part of the world, if you are connected to your soul, you don't have to worry about it. You're bulletproof. So, anyway, I hope I answered that question. Timothy Zoll, honest feeling. Listened to for years. Oh, so you listened to my channel for years. Finally subscribed after Hul Huar, now doing 3 ones, CE5, Sifu hands for me. I've had excellent changes for the better. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Timothy, for sharing that experience. And you've been on the channel long enough, I've been saying it. I challenge you, whoever you are, I challenge you to do any or all of the practices, even just doing the Hul breath. Again, if you don't know what that is, you can just Google that, H-U-U-L breath, and you'll get a free video of me teaching you how to do a very practical Qigong and meditation. If you did that for an hour a day, for 30 days, I guarantee you there will be a change. And I challenge anybody to do that. Do the Hul breath for an hour a day, every day for 30 days, and come back and tell me that nothing happened. You won't. Nobody ever has. So, Timothy, it sounds like you took you a while and then you decided to take the challenge, and you see, it works. So thanks for sharing your experience. And bear in mind, I didn't make this stuff up. So when I tell you how powerful this stuff is, it's not necessarily me tooting my own horn. I had to learn it from other people, and I did it. And let me just be really clear about something. I don't know anybody that's more screwed up than me. If there's anybody who's been pre-wired to have a horrifically horrible life and be screwed up, it's me. And if I, simply by doing these practices, have been able to not only stay alive, but to stay sane, to stay healthy, and to continue to prosper, where, I get to live the life of my dreams. I'm right now living in this wonderful, I'm looking like this because it's this huge ceiling. I'm living in this split level, 3-bedroom house on the beach in a private residential complex in Florida, surrounded by palm trees. On all sides, there's water on all sides, 3 sides of the house. And I'm paying less than I would pay to have a 1-bedroom apartment in Southern California. That happens when you do the work. When you align with your soul, the world lines up for you. I'm getting ready to go off to Australia in a couple months, and I've already got my places all lined up there, and I get to live, in perfect, for me, perfect conditions, living on the beach in rainforest, beautiful semi-tropical conditions. And I don't care what's going on in the world. I don't worry about my astrology. If I do, I flow with it, and it empowers me. These are the things that I share with you. If you want your life to get better, I have the answers. And the answer isn't coming necessarily from what comes out of my mouth. The answers are in doing the practices. That's why listening to me talk is one thing, doing the practices is another. All right. So, what else? Tara's doing the Huar mantra. Very good. Orekas says Western and Eastern astrology are both real. They are different aspects of the clock. That's a really common understanding, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But here's a fact. The fact of the matter is that Western astrology is an inaccurate calculation of the sky. And if you actually do the research to research the history of astrology, you will find out how that happened. If you're not aware of how that happened, let me educate you. And first off, before we go beyond that, we've got to be, look, in order to evolve, we've got to be willing to let go of things that we are emotionally attached to. I was a born-again Christian when I was a kid and into my early adulthood. In fact, I was so committed to that religion, I went to Bible school. I studied the New Testament in Greek in its original language. I was going to go to seminary, and I was more interested in knowing the truth than I was in staying with my emotional connection to my religion. I walked away from that religion, and the things that I reveal to you about how horrible that religion is comes from my willingness to know the truth. There's no shortage of people out there that within a certain context can say, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, we all worship the same God and we shouldn't judge each other. And there's some truth to that. Somebody who's focused on following the spiritual path that will bring them closer to themselves, whatever the religion is, that's not as important as their internal commitment to themselves. But at some point, the truth becomes important. And Western and Eastern astrology, Orekas, I'm assuming you're new to the channel, because otherwise you would already have heard this and you would know you're putting a target on your head just by saying that. But the truth of the matter is here's what happened. There was in the area of what is now Turkey, there was a city-state, and they developed what we now know of as astrology. And it's very old, and it was their religion. They worshipped the stars and the planets. And they were astronomers, and they spent, who knows, hundreds, thousands of years studying the sky and the stars, and they created the science of what we now know as astrology. That civilization is gone now because the Muslims came in and wiped them out. So we only now have what's been left to the people who learned from them. So 2,000 years ago, the Greeks, who were the founders of what we call Western astrology, the Greeks and the wise men from India both traveled to this city-state to learn the art of astrology. They learned it and they brought it back to their own country. Now, 2,000 years ago, the two different astrological timings were unified. So it didn't matter if you were using the tropical zodiac, which is what Western uses, or the sidereal zodiac, which is what the Vedics use. It didn't matter 2,000 years ago. So the Greeks used the wrong calculation of the sky. It's actually, the tropical zodiac is you're looking at the sky from the wrong angle and you're getting the wrong calculation of the sky. So these are facts. When you look up at the sky, there's the star is in a certain space. It's not movable. It's not over here and then 24 degrees over there, because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about a 24-degree difference in the placement of stars and planets. That is not up for debate. So this is a science. Because if what you say is true, both Western and Eastern astrology are both real, they're different aspects. If what you're saying is true, then what you're saying is the exact calculation of the placement of the stars and planets is meaningless. It's all just symbolic. And this is why Western astrology, most people, when I give them a reading, and they think they're, for instance, in Western astrology, I'm a Virgo. which I'm not. I'm a Leo. But I've never identified as a Virgo, ever. Now, sometimes people, it will line up. Sometimes they're a Virgo in Western, like my ex-wife, a Virgo in Western and a Virgo in Vedic. But they're still off by 24 degrees. It just didn't leave the sign altogether. So I'm sorry, Orekas, as awakened and as tolerant as that comment is, it's just inaccurate. And when we're dealing with science, you have to know the truth. And now you're going to argue with me, and that's not what we do on this channel. So look, this is my channel. This is my classroom. If you don't want to listen to what I got to say, go someplace else. I'm not interested in arguing with you. And you're not in a place where you can argue. And you're wrong. I read a little bit. No, it's based on the seasons. No, it's not. It is an inaccurate calculation of the sky that the Greeks did not correct. It's that simple. They came back with an inaccurate calculation of the sky and they didn't fix it. Period. End of story. I'm sorry if you're emotionally attached to being a Western astrologer. It doesn't change the fact that it's an inaccurate calculation. All right, moving on. Atham Animist, question. Sometimes I find myself have imaginary conversations with loved ones and people I look up to. I feel as though I learn new things doing this. Could this be my higher self at work? You bring up a very good... All right, so Orekas, this is obviously the wrong channel for you. I'm not interested in fighting with you, nor do I want to get into any kind of battle with you. If you don't like it here, there's the door. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. If you want to learn something, feel free to learn and stay in class. Otherwise, for the time being, we are not going to allow this to continue. All right. Athamanimous question. So sometimes I find myself, I have imaginary conversations with loved ones and people I look up to. And you want to know if this is your higher self at work. This is a really good question. The short answer I'm going to say is yes. The reason why you see myself doing this kind of stuff is because ever since I started interacting with beings from higher dimensions, it has really completely expanded my understanding of what happens when we talk to ourselves. It is true that we have an unconscious mind within us that has its own voice. And as you know, people who are bonkers, people who are nuts, people who are insane, they can hear voices and things like that, and it's nothing other than their own unconscious mind barking at them. Their own fears, their own projections, things like that. And so they might think they're interacting with some other spiritual being when in reality there aren't. It's also possible to interact with spiritual beings that want to deceive you or want to co-sign your unconscious garbage in your lower self. And you can get messages and interactions with that. But the thing about higher dimensional beings is, let me give you an example of something that happened to me. Was it yesterday? It could have been just as recently as yesterday. I went and did a meditative CE5, which is I meditatively left my body, my astral body, and I went off to go see if I could connect with some higher beings. And when I did, the message that I got was, you need to go and rest. You've been doing a lot of this work, and you need to incorporate, what you've experienced, and it's in your best interest to just go home and rest, and come back to this kind of interaction later. And when I came out of that meditation, there was a song that was stuck in my head. Now, I always have a song stuck in my head. But lots of times I'll wake up and there will be a song in my head from 40 years ago, 30 years ago, that that I can't remember the last time I actually heard it. And the words of the song will be something that I need to hear. So after I had that interaction with higher dimensional beings, and they said, you need to go home and rest. You've done a lot of this work. Let's put this down for a while. When I came out, there was a song in my head from 1971 that I haven't heard in a long time. And the specific words of that song, that part of the song was, the doctor said I need rest. That was part of the song. And that was playing in my mind. And I was like, oh, I need to rest. Now, here's the weird part about this. How would a higher dimensional being be able to instantaneously trigger in my mind a specific phrase in a specific song that is from 1971 that it wasn't even my album, it was my sister's album. And I remember listening to it when I was, 1972, like 8 or 9 years old. That's how long ago that I first heard that song. And that's when I played it, when 30, 40 years ago when I lived in my parents' house with my sister. So how would a being be able to do that? Well, as it turns out, higher dimensional beings, once you get up into the 5th dimension, the one thing you can do, as we talked about in the previous video that I put on here just recently, is that beings from the 5th dimension can go anywhere in time. They can go all the way back to the beginning of the universe. They can go all the way to the end of the universe. And they can go to as many different locations in one timeline as they want. So they can literally be in infinite numbers of times and places just in this universe. And it's as easy for them to do that as it is for us to switch a channel on a television. They can be watching 1 billion channels at once and be completely involved in each show. So that means that being I was talking to had access to all of my memories and all of my thoughts, and was able to pull out one phrase in one song that I would have playing in my head on an unconscious level, encouraging me to rest and relax. The doctor said I need rest. It was from Humble Pie. I don't need no doctor. Really great song. But it was made in 1972. So the point is, I've now come to realize, since I've had my first interaction with higher dimensional beings, my first CE5 experience, they've been with me ever since. And since I'm comfortable with it, if you're not comfortable with it, they might not interact with you this way. But I'm comfortable with it. They're with me 24/7. And I'm sometimes, I will go days on end with continuous interaction with them on all different kinds of levels. And I'm comfortable with it, so it's okay. It doesn't bother me. But I've become aware that every single thought that goes through my head, whatever light beings have decided to work with me, are hearing literally every single thought that goes through my head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they will respond. If I start thinking in a way that is helpful to my spiritual empowerment, or if I start thinking about a concept that I'm going to share on a channel, and I start going down a path that they like, they'll tell me. Not in words. It's not like I hear a voice in my head or anything like that. But I had to, one day I went, holy crap, this being is with me. They're hearing every single thought I have. That means all the embarrassing stuff as well as all the good stuff. So the short answer to your question is yes, that is a way of you working with your higher self. When you have conversations with loved ones, you are usually trying to work through something. And if you're having a conversation in your mind with your loved ones and it helps you work things out and go to the higher, to a higher level for yourself, then I would definitely say that is a way of working with your higher self. But again, we use the same litmus test for everything when it comes to anything. And that is the three things. Are you happier, healthier, and more prosperous? If the answer to that question is yes, then you're connecting to your soul. So if having conversations in your mind with loved ones is resulting in you being happier, healthier, and more prosperous, then I would definitely say, yeah, it sounds like you're working with your higher self. But the other thing to know is that every single human, each one of you listening, you are a three-dimensional projection of a ninth-dimensional being, which means that there's a ninth-dimensional being out there that has projected you into 3D because that ninth-dimensional being wants to master consciousness, and you are their consciousness experiment. And when you realize that and you on a regular basis communicate with your higher self, like you consciously say, I want to communicate with my higher self to know what is the truth. Like I just said, just the interaction I just had with the individual who I had to, obviously somebody's new to the channel. I'm not interested in arguing with you. But being willing to know the truth and being willing to drop your emotional attachment to the truth. I've done that. You guys have seen me do that. You've seen me completely flip on numerous things about the narrative that has been given to us. Over a year ago, about 13 months ago, I had a huge, giant change. And every time that I realize that I'm wrong, I come to you and I say I'm wrong. If someday I were to come to the realization that Western astrology is actually accurate, I would come on here and tell you I was wrong. I haven't found that yet, and I don't think I will. But it's really important that we be willing to do that. That we be willing to be wrong. That if it means being wrong allows us to understand more truth. Anyway, I don't know what that had to do with what I was saying to you. Anyway, Athamanimist, my short answer to your question is yes. As long as you are, I guess, checking in with yourself to make sure that whatever it is you're doing, talking to your loved ones in your mind, or whatever it is that you are doing in your life, if it's making you happier, healthier, and more prosperous, then that would mean you're working with your higher self. What I wanted to say was, in order to get your higher self to help you, this was the main point. In order to get your higher self to help you, you must be willing to know the truth. And you must be willing to have your higher self tell you when something isn't serving you. When they reveal something to you that goes against your emotional attachments. Oirekas here was inaccurate in what they were saying about what Western astrology does. And it's just an inaccuracy. He's just wrong. If it's a he or she is just wrong. I don't personally have anything against them. I don't know them. I'm not attached to whether Western astrology or Vedic astrology is right. I'm not attached. I'm not attached to whether or not the earth is flat or round. I'm only interested in the truth. And I am willing to continue to look at my emotional attachments to my beliefs, and I am willing to painfully let go of things I really like in favor of what the truth is. It was no fun walking away from Christianity. I didn't walk away because I wanted to. I walked away because I was more interested in knowing the truth than I was in following my beloved religion. Oirekas there, if that person is willing to know the truth about astrology and is willing to let go of however many years they've studied and practiced and learned Western astrology or their attachment to their Western astrological chart, if that person is willing to let go of that attachment and all that work and all that history in order to know the truth, you'll find out what I found out when I completely switched over to Western. And there's a really prominent Vedic astrologer I forget her name. She's really popular on YouTube. I was just watching her channel. Anyway, I have to remember her name because she's so well known. Let's see. Vedic Astrology. That's not her. Joni Patri. This is a Vedic astrologer. But she wasn't originally a Vedic astrologer. She was a Western astrologer. She had learned a lot and mastered Western astrology. She had, I assume, a booming business as a Western astrologer. And she became aware that Western astrology was off by 24 degrees, because it is. Why is it that your Western chart says that you're one sign and your Vedic chart says you're another sign? It's because it's off by 24 degrees. And there's no way two charts that are 24 degrees apart are both equally as good. They say two completely different things. So it annoys the crap out of me. Obviously, anybody who knows that fact and still chooses to say Western and Eastern are both the same, they obviously have an emotional attachment, and they're unwilling to let go and go through the discomfort of letting go of that emotional attachment. And the end result is they won't know the truth. The end result is, as I've experienced with Western astrology, when Western astrology is right, it's only right because it's in the general vicinity, or sometimes it's right for the wrong reasons. You know, it happens to be what Rahu is doing as opposed to, you know, whatever other planet they see in that same spot. So, Athmanimist, as long as you're doing that and willing to look at your emotional attachments and willing to be wrong and willing to grow, I think things like what you're doing can be really healing. Let's see, what else? DC Pagan, what ayanamsha do you use in your astrological readings? I just use the one that my program tells me. Whatever Jyotish dashboard uses, that's the one I use. There you go. Figure that one out. Jedi Black Knight, that's not a question. Okay. All right. So that's it. He does bring up a good point. Tulsi Gabbard has walked away from the Democratic Party and done so publicly. I respect her as well. So do we not have any questions? All right. So I've got on my high horse about whatever I was talking about. I told you what to do to get the most out of this channel and encourage you to go here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe. And I offended somebody and disagreed with them. So I think I've ticked all the boxes that I normally tick on my channel. So I think we're all done for today. Thank you, my friends. I appreciate you showing up. And as always, I love you with all of my heart. And I want nothing but your happiness and your empowerment. If I've done or said anything that's been hurtful or offensive or annoying, just know that in my heart, my desire is to give you the truth and to help you find the truth within yourself and to find the most empowerment you can find in your life. And until next time, whatever. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you all very soon. Take care.